This is lesson 25 of beer characteristics, and in this lesson, we are discussing the yeasty character in beer. The yeasty character in beer. This is a different character than the yeast normally produced in beer. Normally, we expect esters, phenols, and alcohol from the yeast. That's all normal. These types of yeasty characteristics that we're talking about are the bread, dough-like, and slight haziness that fresh yeast can impart to our beer, and the meaty, brothy, sometimes Vegemite-like flavors italicized yeast can produce. More on that fresh yeast characteristic. It provides a bread dough-like flavor and powdery mouthfeel. High levels can create a slight haze in the beer. The yeast in suspension can add a bitterness called yeast bite. This is appropriate in some beer styles like unfiltered German lagers, Australian sparkling ales, Gosas, and some Belgian ales. The italicized character in yeast. Italysis occurs when the yeast cells begin to break down after fermentation is complete. The flavor it produces is like Vegemite, beef broth, or burnt rubber when at extreme levels. It happens when bottle-conditioned beers are aged or the beer is left on the yeast too long in the fermenter. There's some things that can be done to control a yeasty character. For the fresh yeast character, we can use high flocculating yeast for it to settle out more in the final beer. And we can cold crash and cold condition the beer to get it to drop out further from suspension. To avoid italysis, we should remove the beer from the yeast promptly after fermentation. And we should store bottle-conditioned beers in a cool environment. There are styles that a yeast character is acceptable in, as well as styles that it is unacceptable. A yeasty character is acceptable in unfiltered German lagers, Gosas, and certain Belgian ales. The yeasty character is inappropriate for clean lagers, British beers, or other clarified styles. The yeasty character in summary. Yeasty character can add bread-like qualities to certain unfiltered styles. Italicized yeast flavors are generally undesirable, except in specific high-end beverages. Proper yeast management and storage are essential to control yeasty flavors. And if we get a fresh yeast character in a beer during our judging exam, we can note, cold condition or add cold side findings to help drop the yeast out of suspension to avoid a yeast character. And if we get an italicized type of character, we can write, remove the beer from the yeast promptly after fermentation. If bottle conditioning, be sure to store bottles in a cool place to avoid the italysis character. That is it for the yeast character lesson, and that is our last beer characteristic lesson. We've got one more lesson in this section, so let's head on over. I will see you there.